Hello and welcome, my beautiful souls. I'm Marisa Hallsted, and I'm thrilled that you've joined me for this very special masterclass, a time for us to dig into what becoming the architect of our own reality really is and how it feels in our life. Before we dive in, I want to share just a little bit about my journey so you know who you're listening to. For years, I lived trapped in pretty severe anxiety. I was stuck in people-pleasing patterns. I was constantly second-guessing myself. I was feeling stuck in relationships that weren't serving me, but it was through heartbreak, actually, that ripped my heart wide open so that I could learn how to find the deeper part of myself. And I've been on that path for about 10 years now. When I discovered that the root of my suffering wasn't actually my circumstances, it wasn't actually my heartbreak, it wasn't actually that the relationship got torn apart. It was through those relationships, through that breakup, that I was actually learning. So then I turned to studying with shamans and healers and yogis and subconscious reprogramming and psychology. And I developed now what I call the metamorphosis method. So this is really a comprehensive approach that goes through the mind, our body, and our energy field. As a Reiki master and shamanic journey practitioner, I use energy healing to help reconstruct our reality holistically. We're helping people break free, just like you, just like me, from those limiting patterns that create the stuckness in our lives so that we have more alignment in the essence of who we truly are. So the one most profound truth that really changed everything for me was that the only problem you have is thinking that you have a problem in the first place. This might sound a little provocative, especially if you're facing real challenges. The only problem we ever have is thinking or believing we have one. Our suffering does not come from our circumstances themselves, but rather our interpretation from them. So from the story we tell about what's happening and what that means about us, we believe that something is a problem. Our mind, our body, and our energy field organize around that belief. And our subconscious programming becomes automatic and in charge. So when we contract or resist or struggle against what actually is, that resistance creates such tension in our system and therefore reinforces the very patterns that we're trying to change. So what if nothing is actually wrong? What if everything, even the challenging part, is actually here serving our evolution? What if your obstacles aren't in the way, but they are the way? This radical shift in perspective is really the foundation of becoming a reality architect. To get started is really trying on for size and contemplating that as truth. It doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or bypassing our emotions or going super spiritual. It means recognizing that we have the power and taking radical responsibility to choose how we relate to our experience. How do we understand our programming? So in order to become the architect of our reality, you first need to understand the software that's actually currently running it in the first place, our subconscious. So our subconscious mind is the non-thinking part that analyzes things in our prefrontal cortex and reasoning. And it runs about 95% of the show of our mental processing. It's what happens in the background when we're not paying attention, below our awareness. So this subconscious programming was installed really early in our life, largely before the age of 8. When your brain is still in this formation phase, the hypnotic theta wave state is actually 80% of our programming happens there. And as kids below 8, we spend most of our time in that state. So we absorb the beliefs of who we are and how safe the world is, filtering through that sponginess back when we were before 8. So these beliefs aren't random. They're organized and they're maintained by our ego self. But here's the important part to understand about the ego. Your ego is not the enemy. It's actually incredibly benevolent. It's trying to keep you, it's trying to keep me safe based on its very just limited binary understanding of survival, of keeping us safe. And it operates in two very simple principles. One is same, as in the same pattern is safe. And the other is different, so change is danger, and sometimes even death. It can't distinguish between the past and the present or the future. And it doesn't understand between life and death. So anything that's unfamiliar registers as potentially life-threatening. This is why change feels so uncomfortable, even when it's positive, even when we tried, even when we're really dedicated. Your ego interprets the unknown as dangerous simply because it's different from what you've known before. But beneath this programming lies your true essence. So there's the ego, and how I define that is anything that's the not self. That divine self-essence, this is the part that is connected to alignment, to our infinite potential, the unboundness of any limiting beliefs. It knows that you're safe. It knows that you're in alignment. It knows that you are whole already. And it's about bridging these two aspects of ourselves, working with the ego and its beautiful protective intentions, while showing it there's a bigger reality available and keeping it safe. So what I'm going to share with you is my method that I've taken from some very amazing teachers. And I want to talk about how we can reprogram ourselves using the 4 A's. Okay, this is a really powerful framework and it's a roadmap. So I hear all the time that, Marisa, I get this, but how? Me too, when we're in those moments. How? How do I find that back subconscious mind? Awake, aware, ask, and accept. Awake is the choice to wake up and not go on the hamster wheel, repetitive thinking, the I don't have enough money, whatever they are. You're waking up to you're not going to go down that rabbit hole of thinking of whatever those 10 steps of thoughts are. You are going to choose to do this practice or whatever you need to flip the script. Okay, so awake. Then we go into our awareness. And this I use through the body awareness because it's the most tangible. And I find it's a great way for us to have that roadmap of a path to follow. So you're going to go into your awareness and you're going to slow way down. You're going to close your eyes and use your breath as this kind of portal to presence so that you can get really aware of what's happening. That separates and creates a gap between the ego self of I am the trigger, so I am that belief, into the separation of the essence of I know that I'm actually whole and aligned and divine now, but there's a gap between the two. So what awareness does is creates more opportunity for observing rather than being and identifying with the trigger in the first place. So awareness. And then you're going to go into asking. This is the next step. And this asking is very important. The paradox of all healing is that when we go into any process, any asking from a space of total curiosity, of unconditional allowance, of true loving what is, then we actually heal. When we go into asking questions or a practice like this with needing to fix, change, or improve, going back to that statement of the only problem I have is believing I have a problem, then we can't fix it. It resists even more. So this asking is really, really important to go in with an open heart and open mind just to understand. Then comes in the acceptance. So the acceptance piece and the allowance piece is whatever arises. You talk to that feeling, emotion, whatever's coming up here in your observance phase, and you talk to it and say, you're allowed to be here. I want to know more. I don't need you to change. I'm here to listen. And once you've done that allowance, you ask one more question, and that is, what do you need? What does this part of you, this feeling, this trigger need to hear? What is it asking for? And then you offer it. You wrap the whole practice up with a thank you, with gratitude, with a commitment that you're going to continue to go through this 4 A's and you're here with yourself. When you come into that radical acceptance, more often you're building trust with yourself. You're knowing what allowing actually feels like in your body, and then you're taking all these concepts into real action, and that's going to be the truth of your higher perspective. That's going to be the reality of your new way of being, is taking radical responsibility. When we can really choose to see what's happening in front of us as a teacher, the boss that just irks you, the relationship that's really hard, the self-judging pattern that's keeping you out of the habits. See them, all of those examples, as gifts of your evolution, because we are growth-oriented beings and we use life. We come here in human form so that we can have the life that we want, but we get it through the becoming, the vibrational match of who we need to be to have that life. And so life really is always working for us. We get to come back into gratitude. We get to come back into radical choice. Every challenge reveals where we still have programming to transform, probably from when we were 8. So every trigger shows us where we're not quite yet living in the freedom. Obstacles aren't in the way, they are the way. They're precisely what you've called in into that next level of being, that person that has and feels everything that you want. The next time you have a trigger, use and implement this pathway of the 4 A's. I'm going to drop your guided practice so that you can actually go and take yourself through that process. I've designed another way to practice with support called the Metamorphosis Method. And this is something that helps to dive even deeper into different aspects of ourselves that we all desire to have more access to. Our power, our pleasure, our play, our prosperity, and even our psychic gifts and our psychic abilities. Activating our intuitive abilities so that we can really navigate our reality. If that feels supported to you, I would love, 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 love to have you in it, because the more of us doing this work to come back into the alignment of our true essence and the empowerment of using life as our greatest teacher, that is the type of vibration that is going to literally shift the planet. So as we reprogram our minds, our bodies, and our energy field, the metamorphosis is here. It's for you. I am going to share that information with you as well if you want to take yourself through that container. Remember that your path to freedom is inside. You are already whole. You are already loved. You are already perfect exactly as you are, just like me. And in those moments where we forget and that subconscious benevolent ego comes forward to keep us safe by keeping us doing the same thing, we now have pathway and tool to uncover and take the layers off. Personal development is not about development at all. It's not about growth, because we already know the truth. And the truth is, we are free now. We don't have a problem. We are loved and whole, and we are peeling off, dissolving the layers that keep us from remembering that total, divine, unwavering truth. And it always exists in the present moment. It always exists in the now. And use life as your greatest ally, your pain as your path, because that is the very thing that will eliminate our suffering and bring us into that felt sense of freedom. I wish you love.